everyone, and welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. My name is Peggy Ployer, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sped Homeschool, as well as the host of this broadcast. We at Sped Homeschool empower families to home educate children with learning challenges, and I encourage you to check out our website at spedhomeschool.com to learn more about the resources and support that we offer families. Some of the best resources we have on our website you can find on our homeschool help page. All you have to do is go to our homepage and click I want homeschool help, and that'll lead you to a lot of different resources there. And each month on our broadcast, we focus on a different topic. And this month, as we're kicking off December, we're doing a lot about Christmas, but we're also focusing on public funding programs that you can tap into as a homeschooling family. And so tonight, we're going to be talking with some of the people behind the scenes that work with some scholarship funding programs. They're going to share with us just a little bit about what they do, why they do it, and how you may be able to take advantage of these programs as well. So tonight with me, I have Kim Coleman. Kim's professional life has an intersection of innovation, disruption, choice, and advocacy in education and marketplaces. Kim is the founder and creator of Monticello Academy Charter School, and which is now one of the longest running charter schools in the state of Utah. Kim served for 6 years in the Utah House of Representatives, where she was the vice chair of the Education Committee and passed national model education legislation. She's the founding partner and CEO of Children First Education Fund, a nonprofit scholarship granting organization for children with disabilities. And Kim is married to Joel, and they have 5 children. And then also I have Barb with me. She spent 10 years working for Disney, opening resorts, Disneyland Paris, Disney Vacation Club. From there, another 15 years owning her own company and working in banking and credit unions. And by chance, her daughter in kindergarten had a seizure, which ended her office career, but kind of moved her into the education sector, where she has been navigating disabilities for her daughter, and when taking her out of public school, is now homeschooling her, and her daughter's thriving in the environment they created. She sat on the Parent Advisory Committee for the Garner Scholarship and has held multiple PTA, PTSA board positions, and is currently in advocacy training with the Florida Department of Disabilities. Welcome, ladies. And we also have another guest who might be showing up with us. If she does come, I'll read her bio as well. But wow, that was a mouthful. You two ladies have been busy. I'm super excited to have you with us tonight. So just so you know, if you are watching, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Periscope, and you can be part of this conversation. If you have questions for these women and the programs that they run, or any kind of topic that we bring up throughout the evening, please put your comments down. We'd love to address those, incorporate them in our conversation. So I'll let you two kind of fight this over who wants to start, but I would love for you to share just a little bit beyond your bio as to just kind of the passion that you have behind doing the work that you do, just kind of what spurred that and kind of led you to where you're at now in working with these scholarship programs within your states. And also, Kim is from Utah and Barb is from Florida. So yeah. All right. Well, who would like to go first?
Just want to go, Barbara. You're
Okay. Well, I will jump in then. Feet first.
All right.
I've always been engaged with children. When I was 4 years old and people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said a mom. And, my husband and I are blessed between us to share 6 children and 8 grandchildren. And
that's awesome.
It's been a wonderful journey. I've always, tried to have the best toys in my house so the kids would come play in my house so that I would know what the kids were up to and what kind of friends my children had. Uh-huh. And, when my daughter started having seizures and that just became the beginning of a unique abilities journey for us. I took her out of public school and I started homeschooling her. Florida is a very big school choice state. We have a variety of scholarships, everything from a bullying scholarship, a reading scholarship. We currently have 2 special needs scholarships that are in the process of being merged. One of them was the McKay Scholarship, which handled children that had been in a public school setting and were now heading off to a private school. And then we had what is formerly the Gardner Scholarship that helped children both with private school tuition, but also operates as an educational savings account for students. And there was no requirement for them having attended public school, and it also works for homeschooling. So some of the things that our students can be reimbursed for are tutors, technology, therapies like ABA, music therapy, equine therapy, OT, PT, speech, books, sensory toys and tools, just about anything that you can think of that would work in a homeschool environment to help your child learn a concept. If you can show the educational relevance, then chances are you can have it reimbursed.
Right.
So
yeah, and we'll go into a little bit more specifics of each of these scholarships too. But that's a really good overview of just the broadness of the scholarship opportunities.
It's really exciting, and it's wonderful to be able to give your children more choice than they would have had otherwise.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Barbara. Okay, so Kim, it's your turn.
So I wanted Barbara to go first because Florida is what Utah wants to be when we grow up, and where I'm hoping we get, and that we really get to borrow from, the experience of people who have gone before us and kind of stand on your shoulders and some of the pioneers in this area. This is brand new for us. We have in Utah, we have had a scholarship for children with disabilities that has been publicly funded, publicly managed. And the legislature just decided last year to implement this year for the first time a tax credit scholarship for students with disabilities as well. I think that our objective is to also eventually merge those two programs, take it out of the hands of state management, and really kind of put this on the private sector. And it's just so exciting to me to be in this space as kind of a first in Utah. It's sort of that mix of daunting and exciting at the same time. I did found a charter school in Utah, is one of the oldest, longest running charter schools. So we were kind of early in that space as well. So I kind of really like to be able to enter a new space and try to be pioneers in our state. But really excited to hear from other folks tonight, myself, who have all this experience. And, there's so many students in our state that could benefit from the scholarship. We are just getting the word out. And when people learn, they're excited, but there's so many people that still need to hear about this. So thanks for the opportunity to join you tonight. So this gives us an opportunity to share with other people. And when they hear about what's gone on in other states, I think that provides context for our parents, because they're hearing it for the first time, saying, well, we can do what, you do what. But I love that they can get the context of a couple other states and learn from each other. So.
Right. Yeah. And I hope to have Ohio with us. I called their office. I messaged them, got no response, but they have some great scholarships in Ohio as well. And Arizona, we're supposed to have somebody on with us, but they have a really good ESA scholarship opportunity as well for homeschool parents. And I know there are other states. In general, is it pretty easy to just look at ESA and the state name to be able to Google something and find like your organizations in your states? Or are there places like on like the education website in your state where you would find information on these scholarships? What would be the best route if parents were wondering, does my state have one of these programs?
In Florida, a simple Google search for educational scholarships will direct you to our primary SFO or scholarship funding organization is Step Up for Students. Mm-hmm. And then there's a secondary one called AAA Foundation.
Yes.
And those are the two primary organizations. Currently, McKay is still operated under the Department of Education, but that will roll in as of next July 1st. So they will be considered one scholarship, and the two SFOs will handle all the applications as well as all the disbursements of funds.
Okay. And so for parents who don't understand what an SFO is, what does that mean?
That is a scholarship funding organization. They are a company contracted that is contracted by the state to manage the scholarships and their accounts.
Okay. Awesome. And then what about you, Cam?
So in Utah, the term is SGO, Scholarship Granting Organization. Same thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And we're the only one right now in the inaugural year. So I know other states have multiple SGOs, SFOs, all different names out there, but we kind of all do the same thing. You can find us if you Google those search terms, but it does take a while to kind of create the ecosystem, to create the market. Right. And again, parents may have to search a little bit to find us because we are just that new. We really became fully operational this summer, kind of late spring, early summer. Yep. And if one were to go on the state website and look for scholarships, the previous scholarship I mentioned, it's called Carson Smith Scholarship. They'll find all kinds of information on that, but the state won't have or won't put us on there, even though this is a legislatively created program. It is considered a state program, but
it just takes a while.
So we're really trying to be in the social media a lot. We've done mass marketing. We've done kind of the morning variety, morning shows, and so we're working hard to get the word out. And but a lot of Facebook groups, we're finding literally hundreds of Facebook groups that are homeschool oriented, supports for families with a child with disabilities. So we're just trying to tap every network we can find.
Yes, exactly. I know. And just creating this organization, we started in 2017, and it's been grassroots, and it just takes a while for people to go, oh, that's what you do. And, kind of wrap their head around this, I guess I need you. But yeah, well, that's awesome. And Kim, having started two separate, brand new things, as a pioneer, you are a strong woman, because I've only done it once, and I'm tired. So I can't even imagine starting all over again. But that's awesome, and you've got to have a great heart behind.
And a patient family.
Yes, exactly.
Supportive family.
Exactly. So diving in a little bit more, I know there are specific requirements for scholarships, and every state has their own requirements for access to these funds. Could you each briefly go through you don't have to go down to the smallest detail, but kind of give us a little bit overarching summary, because parents may be saying, maybe my child isn't even eligible because this is all that they struggle with. And so to kind of help alleviate some of those things, or what kind of testing or proof they need to have in order to even start the process.
Okay, in Florida, I'll speak primarily to the Gardner, which is now known as the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Unique Abilities. And we primarily have diagnoses of autism, rare diseases, anaphylaxis, intellectual disabilities, students that have multiple diagnoses, high risk for the younger toddler into preschool, other health impairment, which includes things like ADHD, specific learning disabilities, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and there's some other diagnoses, but it started off with a much more limited number of diagnoses that were served by the scholarship, and this year it was expanded with the general expansion of the scholarship. A medical diagnosis and or an IEP or a 504 plan from a public school that states the specific diagnosis on it are the acceptable parameters. And this year, the expansion, some of the amazing things that have happened are that this year, children that are foster children, adopted children, and or military dependents do not count towards the caps. The funding caps. So that means that more children can be funded. And also they opened it up so that siblings of special needs students can also receive funding under the umbrella. There's a low income scholarship for students, and this one, as a sibling, they can go to private school only. That it doesn't cover the homeschool piece, but they can go to private school, and the income cap is not counted if they're a sibling of a child with unique abilities.
Okay, wow.
So
that is
so it really makes it so much easier for families to be able to access services for all of their children. You know, if you've got a special needs student at a really good private school, and now you're driving all over town trying to drop kids off at different schools,
right. Exactly.
Now they can all go to the same school.
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
Well, I hope we get there in Utah. The sibling piece, I think, would be very important and really is a major factor for us. So right now, we are strictly just limited to students with disabilities who are not in the public school system. So that first eligibility is do they have a qualifying diagnosis, a qualifying disability? And we take the definitions right out of IDEA, out of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is mirrored in our state law. So a student would qualify by having an IEP, but we also allow any other multidisciplinary team that can make those determinations, that have the qualifications to make those determinations. So I want our families to know that they don't have to go to the district for this for the eligibility determination, which can sometimes be slower than we'd love, and sometimes just anyway. I think districts, do their best, but sometimes it just doesn't have the outcomes, and parents can't always wait. So. And we can help families access those multidisciplinary teams and get that determination.
Oh, that's great.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
We don't include 504, so this is really just the IEP side.
Or just the IEP part of it. Okay. Yeah. No, and you have to start somewhere. Like you were sharing earlier, you have a lot of dreams, and but step by step is what's going to make it successful in the long run. And that's exciting just to have started in your state, because there are so many states that don't even have these options for families. And a lot of our parents even tell us, if I had the financial help, I would start homeschooling, but I just don't have the funds. And it's heartbreaking, because they know that they would help their child much better at home.
And I think, if I may add, we do have sort of that ESA aspect in our program too. So while our scholarship does provide private school tuition, it does also give that fund that does allow that wide range of material services, kind of what that list that Barbara gave, almost all of those things would also be allowable under our program as well. So definitely a benefit for homeschool families that are trying to make that decision. They're maybe on the fence. They don't know if they would be adequate to homeschool their child, but really where Barbara noted, so much can come in to help supplement, support, strengthen. So we're excited to enter that space a little bit more robustly. So.
Yeah. And so can you elaborate, both of you, a little bit more as to the types of things that parents can use these funds for within your programs?
Well, I can speak specifically to the services that my daughter engages. When I took her from her public school setting, she literally told me she wanted to be in a dark room by herself and be sad for the rest of her life. because she just could not succeed in public school in the setting that she was in. And she had a wealth of support in that school. Fast forward a year, she started equine therapy and competed in Special Olympics in front of 500 people at state level and took a gold medal. Equine therapy, she's on her way to being a horse trainer now. So she has tutors, she does theater dance, she does, any curriculum or widgets or sensory, when we're doing math and that's a stressful thing for her, she's got the slime going and the little punchy things going. And a lot of times working with her, it's easier to ask questions through a third party, if you will. So she'll bring a toy or a doll or whatever to the table. And those are her communicators. And so those are covered. So it's big things and little things. It's full-time ABA therapy. It's occupational therapy and, music therapy. She has a music therapist that comes and works with her. And it's kind of a combination of a therapeutic intervention and a music class. So she gets everything that she needs to learn the way that she learns. So, she may never sit down and take an SAT exam, but she can tell you what's important about the Constitution and why it's important that we have laws and rules and who makes those laws and rules. And she just finished drafting a bill and presenting it to legislators, asking that they make a law that says everybody can have chocolate cake every day.
Love that.
So we have a variety of things that are available. There's a handbook that parents receive when they're once they're accepted into the scholarship, and that gives the pre-approved items. And then if there's something that's unique, that, like, for example, and this is kind of silly, but a couple of years ago we were learning fractions, and so I wanted 4 sets of color-coded measuring cups and spoons because we do a lot of cooking and baking in our house, and she understood the measurements, but on paper she didn't understand. And so by taking the measuring cups and spoons to the table, I was able to give her the visual aid that she needed to learn fractions.
That's awesome. So then you just
I put in a pre-approval request. I say what I want to use it for and what the expected outcome is, and then they either approve or deny it.
Awesome. That's great. And so you can be super creative.
Exactly. and we
customize it specifically to your student.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And ours operates fairly similarly. Our scholarship allows the private school tuition on the private school side, but for homeschool families, textbooks, curriculum, other instructional materials. Did I lose you?
Oh, no, we're still here.
Oh, we're here. Okay. Other instructional materials, therapies, things like that. So it is, again, it's a broad range.
Awesome. Yeah. And it seems like that's a lot of what our parents are looking for anyways. When they come in, they're like, mostly it's just therapy, because a lot of times they have the option of putting their kids, like that dual enrollment, like a lot of states do, and taking their child to the school to get therapy, but the therapy isn't always the same as you would get through a private therapist. And but there's a limited amount of therapy that schools offer, like equine therapy. There aren't very many schools that offer that.
No.
So, but if it's something that's going to really resonate with your student, this is another opportunity that homeschooling would allow them to have a more customized approach to their schooling.
And we're kind of just getting started looking at that whole world of opportunities. So I'm going to lean on Barbara after this call. And because we really, our law does allow pretty broad flexibility, and we want to provide that for families for that customizability. And And that's just how it should be.
I was completely shocked when I found out that equine therapy, I didn't even know that it was a thing. I knew that you could go and, that you can take horseback riding lessons as a PE course, but equine therapy as a therapeutic intervention, I knew nothing about that. And the place where my daughter goes, they also work with returning soldiers that have PTSD, and in a lot of instances, health insurance covers it now because they see the value.
Right. I've heard amazing stories from parents and some of these alternative therapies that are offered and how successful they are.
It's really finding, what lights a fire in your student, and then being able to pursue it, which courtesy of these scholarships and homeschooling, we're able to do.
Right. Yeah, it's that partnership there. And yeah, I know a lot of parents it's really hard because that usually, even if you have private insurance, a lot of times therapies are cut from the time the student becomes school age until they are 18 when they're out of school. And then it goes, goes back into effect when you're an adult, I guess, expecting that the school is going to fill that void. But the school therapies are so limited. Or there's,
in Florida, a lot of our employer-based insurances, there's a $40 to $60 copay for each insurance.
Oh, wow.
So, we looked at, doing services outside for our daughter, and $400 a week for OT, PT, and speech.
Right.
That's pretty pricey.
Right. You'd be working full-time and homeschooling. So, yes.
And Barbara, I think you mentioned what the range of your scholarship awards are. Could you share that again?
Absolutely. Our average award amount is roughly $10,000 per year.
What's the upper range of that?
The upper range is 18 to 20,000, maybe a little bit more. Ours are based on IEP matrix scores. And so a student with a 254 or 255 that generally has complex medical and learning needs, that, if you just visualize a student in a public school setting, they probably have a need for a nurse to be in that school to provide medical care during the day. They probably have an aide. They probably have, communication devices, perhaps wheelchairs, some mobility devices. They need specialized transportation to and from school. Those kinds of students would be in the upper end of the matrix score and therefore receive more funding.
Okay. Is there a way for a parent to be able to kind of figure out what the matrix score would be for their student as they're getting started, or that's just something they do with the...
There are Google searches that you can do that provide basically what accommodations are, for certain diagnoses.
Okay.
You can request one through the public school district, and they are obviously required by law to provide that evaluation. However, to be completely fair, it's very difficult for them to give an accurate evaluation of a student in a public, because they're not in a public school classroom. Right. Such a huge piece of the IEP process is classroom observation.
It is.
If they don't go to school, they can't, and it's difficult. There are some districts in Florida that will allow the parent and or tutors or therapists to step in and give their evaluations from the perspective of the teacher. But there are some that just don't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then ours are income-based, so sliding scale.
Okay.
So we start at the lower end of 3,800 to about 9,700 for our lowest income families. Okay. And again, performing like an education scholarship account really just gives that parent that full range of options. So we're, again, just starting, but we'd love to be where Florida is one day.
Oh, but that's a huge help. I mean, a lot of parents will, function on a couple $1,000s for a student when they're homeschooling, and or less, depending on how resourceful they are.
and to be fair, the McKay Scholarship started many, many years ago, and the Gardner Scholarship's been around since 2014. So, we're getting close to 10 years with, an educational savings account scholarship program. So it's had its opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm. And you have stories. You have families that have shown progress, and that continues to snowball and to get supporters, and then of course can increase the amount that the legislation offers to those.
And legislators also, they love the success stories. They love to see that, a student that was basically, for lack of a better expression, written off in a public school environment is now going to go out into the world and go to college or go to vocational training, or, they're going to become an employed individual. They're going to live semi-independently or independently. They're going to be taxpayers instead of, receiving services for the rest of their lives. And that's, really the driving force behind everything, is to give these students the same opportunities and that their non-disabled peers would have had, and to give them every opportunity to have the brightest future that they can possibly have.
Yeah. So in that, I'm assuming that there is some reporting on the parent side that needs to be done throughout this process. What does that involve in each of your scholarships from the parent perspective?
Well, we complete our application to begin with, and we have to prove our residency and those kinds of things, because funding is also determined by county. Because it's tied to the state education budget. So, so funding, so that's kind of how the funding piece is determined. And then each year we file a renewal application. And then that kind of tells them how many students are returning, how many, positions there are going to be for new students to join. Every year we have a wait list. So, the funding priority is renewal students, then wait list, then new students.
That's good to know.
So, and then, when we submit a reimbursement, for example, I just bought some books online on Amazon with their, Black Friday sale. I was thinking ahead to our spring semester. And so I bought some books, and I go onto their system and I submit a reimbursement for it. I put the invoice number, I put in all the detail, and I put the educational relevance specific to my child. These books will help her with this. This fidget will help her with this. Equine therapy helps her with this. Because the way it helps my child might be completely different from the way it helps yours.
Right.
So
those needs have to be listed on an IEP or some type of goals. It can just be anything that.
No, that's all. That's parent determined. I tell them I'm teaching my daughter fractions, showing it to her on paper, giving her dominoes or dice is not helping her. She cooks. These measuring cups will help.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we do that, and the same thing with the pre-approvals, and our therapists and tutors. Like, a tutor needs to be a certified teacher or someone that has a degree in the subject area, a college degree in the subject area that they are teaching. So all of that information is verified.
Okay. All right. Do you? I know in Arizona they have an approved list of curriculum therapy provided. Is that any requirements for either of your programs, or is it just whatever the parent chooses and how they submit it?
For us, it's all curriculum.
Okay.
I piece my own curriculum together, using various books. My daughter and I have an interview at the end of the school year and think about what we're going to do next year.
That's awesome.
And what she's interested in. And then I build my language arts, my math, my science, and everything into that.
Yeah, that's how I've always done it with my kids too. Get their buy-in. All right.
Utah's similar on the ESA side, so it just needs to be sort of an articulable education nexus, a reasonable person standard, I guess. That's not really in statute, but that's sort of where we are with that. Broadly, the statute allows textbooks and online coursework, educational therapy, so long as that therapy is being performed by a licensed therapist. So, And I think I'm curious about equine therapy. I think that those are licensed, they're licensed
certified
people.
Certified,
and so that is something that would actually apply in Utah as well. So, but putting parents in that driver's seat for their child's education is so important.
Yeah, it truly is, and a lot of parents don't realize that they are the best expert on their children, and until they kind of take that deep breath and kind of dive in. And I don't know if I'm certain you realize this, Barbara, as you started homeschooling, is that you just have to trust yourself and your instincts.
I was absolutely terrified. I can tell you that. I lost more sleep in the first 3 years of doing this. And it's really only now in year 5 that I feel like it's okay to talk about it. Mm-hmm. It's okay to try to help somebody else. They'll say, oh, you know this about this. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm an idiot. But I've been very blessed to have some tremendous mentors along the way. We had enrolled my daughter in an umbrella school for the first 2 years that we homeschooled. Yeah. And I'm not sure what your states do as far as umbrella schools, but they basically are technically considered a private school, but they act as an umbrella for homeschooling families.
And a lot of times they're considered accredited. So in states that require accreditation, those are used.
Right. And, they do the record keeping, and they do the things that are either very difficult for a parent to do in a homeschool environment or, whatever. So when we were interviewing and going to different schools, one of the founders of the school that we selected, she stood up in the presentation and she said, I think all the parents were probably looking scared and intimidated and everything else. And she said, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that just resonated with me for so long. And I think about that every time I think I'm going to screw up my daughter's life and ruin her forever.
You're her parent.
Right. But then, it's qualified, but nobody is ever going to love her the way I do. Nobody's ever going to know her the way I do. Mm-hmm. So why can't I be her teacher?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a blessing that these state programs allow that freedom, that educational choice, but to even go above and beyond, to trust you with the funding, not just your child, and say, we think you can make a good choice. And so that's empowering to have states do that. And I know a lot of people are advocates against the funding because they think, well, there's so many strings tied, and we're going to get all this extra legislation for homeschoolers. But I always try to advocate on the other side when people start saying that. I'm like, but do you know the financial situation most of our families come from? And yet they struggle with the schools. They struggle in these IEP meetings, this freedom. I don't know if there's any stories that you have to share of things. I'm going to have a question put up here, though, because it's for Kim. And then, so I'll let you kind of process if you maybe have some stories to share of just how parents have, beyond your own stories, have seen the ability to use this educational choice in a greater way because of this funding. Annette is watching on Facebook, and she said, how do parents tap into scholarship funds in Utah? Does Utah operate on a reimbursement basis like Florida, and or are providers able to enroll as direct pay?
Okay, so let me kind of address the question you asked before this question, and we don't have collected stories yet. So, but I do want to note that just with COVID, with 2020, that was the year where parents probably explored the option of homeschooling more than ever before. We saw some parents exercise that choice that maybe without those circumstances wouldn't have thought about that. So I just want to make sure that parents, if they're thinking about homeschooling and just aren't sure, these scholarships can help you supplement, can help you pay for supports outside of what homeschool networks sort of already do, and things like the umbrella school, but those support networks in and of themselves. But if you're dealing, with a child with a disability and aren't sure you can do it, I mean, this is one thing that can help you get the extra, that therapy, those things. So with Utah, we do have, we're setting up a system of the ESA, a vendor that will allow you to basically use an account similar to your health HSA, where there are allowable uses for those funds. And we kind of set up the guardrails where you can kind of spend fairly freely within those parameters, and anything that we need to discern individually, we can do that. But I think, Peggy, if you're going to throw up our websites or anything, mine's right here.
It is right here. Yep.
Childrenfirsteducationfund.org. You can go in there and look at all of the eligibility requirements, what the allowable expenses, as well as applying. And there's the donor side of that too, but that's always
yes, and that's important to point out. Is there, in order for this work to be done, there has to be people giving the money as well and supporting the programs. And it's very important. So awesome. So what about from your side, Barbara? I know you've been involved in a lot of different things with this scholarship. Are there any stories that you have to share from the community?
Yeah, we've got so many families that have benefited so greatly from these scholarships and just from the ability to be present in their children's lives. We have, families that, when you have a special needs student, there's a lot of families that become single parent families. There's a lot of families that, they live at or below the poverty line because they're not working, because they're chasing ambulances, or they're, it's a full-time battle just to get your child the medical care that they need sometimes. And so the scholarship and some of the subsequent help that has come from it, they started a few years ago, they started a feature within the scholarship called My Scholar Shop. Because, for example, one of the things that's included in an acceptable usage of funds is technology.
Okay.
If you've got a child that wants to do online classes, or, wants to, is there anything in this world that's not connected to a computer right now besides my dad? Exactly. Who's actually on a computer tonight, I hope, watching. So, there's technology is a resource, but it's kind of like dangling a carrot if they have to pay for it and then wait to be reimbursed. So they started a My Scholar Shop feature where you can go in and purchase that computer, and it debits the scholarship funds immediately.
Oh, wow.
So that's, that just, it provides a tremendous resource for families.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. And with the amount of apps that are out there now that I hear parents sharing on our support groups, they're like, well, here's a, free one, but it's free if you have the device.
Right. And
it's not free if you don't.
and there's, our children, their unique abilities, sometimes they work better in a YouTube world or in a virtual world than they're more successful in learning the basics that they need to know in those worlds, and now we can support them.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. So I do want our viewers to know, if you are watching and want to ask a question, we're kind of hitting our last 15 minutes. So I want to make sure that we incorporate any questions or comments you have in to our discussion. But just kind of some closing comments from both of you as our viewers are kind of thinking over what they might want to ask or share. From just information that you just want to make sure people know about, I have your websites up again. I'd love to share those again, and I will include those in the Facebook description, or not the Facebook, the YouTube description. Will have all of these links in there, how you can can find more information about all of these programs, and I'll include Arizona's information, even though they were unable to come to tonight's discussion. And so hopefully you can find out some information there too. But yeah. So Kim, can you have you go first?
Yeah, you bet. So again, just getting the word out. So if you are watching this, please share with families. We all know a family who is raising a child with disabilities. We know lots of homeschool families. And when those two come together, this is a program that can really benefit. I just want everybody's help in spreading the word. And we have a lot of scholarships still available this year. So please go to our website and go to childrenfirsteducationfund.org. Look at those eligibility requirements, apply, give us a call. We want to answer your questions. But please, I think the thing that we need the most right now is just for people of Utah to even know that this exists. And I think, I don't know if you wake up as a parent in Florida and Arizona and you just know these options are out there. People still don't always know about this one. And also as we've listened to Barbara and all the options out there in Florida, and again, we want to be Florida when we grow up. Advocate if you're a homeschooling family, and it's not that you have a child with a disability, but growing this program, expanding this program to help all kinds of homeschool students, step up and advocate through the policymaking process, through the legislative process. To make the current program that we have better and make it bigger and to benefit more students across the state. So that's kind of our Christmas wish and to be like Florida.
Yes. Well, that's an encouragement. I want to encourage the audience too. I know we have a lot of podcast listeners to these broadcasts. And so even if maybe you don't even live in Utah, I want to encourage you to go into your Facebook groups that have special needs parents. Maybe they don't even homeschool, and say, do you know about this? Because maybe they're sitting on the fence going, I would love to homeschool, but I just don't think we can do it financially. And here is this opportunity for them to have that financial ability to homeschool and to make that choice. And you could be answering that question for them today. So share that information out there. And just like Kim said, maybe you don't even live in Utah. Maybe you live in another state that doesn't even have this funding. Maybe you're being called to start some legislation to start a program like this in your state. This can help a lot of families. And it actually makes our goal as SPED Homeschool, our underlying goal is that homeschooling is the most viable option for parents who have special needs children, because we do know it is the best option, the most flexible option. But it's not always the most viable option for the families that really want to do it. And so that's why we exist as a nonprofit. So Barb, what about from you?
Well, I'm very happy to live in Florida.
Yes.
We've got some hiccups with our scholarship programs because of the expansion. And, I guess the caution that I would throw out there is, slow growth, measured growth. Don't do an overnight explosion. And unless you know that you have all the infrastructure in place. Right. Because the last thing you want to do is let down a family that desperately needs the funding to educate their child. However, this has been the greatest blessing that we could have ever had for our daughter, and we'll shout it from the rooftops that educational choice and these education savings accounts are just a great gift.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the two websites that Barbara shared with me that's Utah. We've got the Family Empowerment Scholarship. It's stepupforstudents.org. And then the AAA Foundation, it's AAAscholarships.org. Awesome. And my son just moved to Florida, so who knows if he ends up getting married there and having kids. He may be accessing that since he's on the spectrum, and it usually keeps up in families.
All right.
As I know, as I'm on the spectrum too. So, but yeah, it's great that these opportunities are available and that they just continue to bless families year after year. And it's because of the work of people like Barbara and Kim and so many others that are making sure that these programs are healthy and growing. And I just want to commend both of you for the work that you do and for the heart and the soul that you put into it, because I do know it's a passion. It's not always financially rewarding. So thank you for investing your lives into the future of many children. Yeah. All right. Well, we don't have any other comments or questions from our audience. They're being awfully quiet tonight. So, but hopefully they're absorbing all of this information. And I do want to share the Arizona information, even though our representative wasn't able to come. It's the Empowerment Scholarship account. And if you go to azed.gov/ESA, you'll be able to find more information about that Empowerment Scholarship account. And their program is more based on state-approved providers that then you can access with those funds. I've spoken at that state conference a few times, and it's kind of confusing sometimes when at the homeschool conferences, because not everybody that's at the conferences is approved vendors and how they can use that money. So, but anyways, it's good to look into the specifics of whatever state you live in and the scholarships offered there. So
I know there's a lot of other states that are looking into it at this point. Yes. So, I will encourage.
Texas is too. I've heard a lot from the Texas Homeschool Coalition that they're supporting it, but.
And I would encourage families, at least in Florida, we have very responsive legislators that, have, when we've had a problem with the scholarship, they have addressed it generally in the next session, and or they've used their influence with the Department of Education or, whatever. Because, when you create a program that's going to serve a certain population of people, there's obviously going to be exceptions here and exceptions there. And, our legislators are very responsive towards trying to help families.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Any other encouragement?
Write to them, yes. Call them.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple minutes back about sometimes parents are concerned that if they engage a program like this, there are all these strings attached, or they're going to be pulled under some public government microscope. Right. And so I know for us here, there's so many reasons why parents will choose to homeschool. Mm-hmm. But we honor our student privacy, our family privacy. We don't share information with the state. So there really is a whole lot of independence that these scholarship programs are largely managed by private nonprofits. In our state, at least, with our new law, this current law, we do keep that privacy of those families, allow them that flexibility to use the fund in acceptable and approved ways, but within their choices.
Right. So thank you for pointing that out, because I think that could be keeping some parents on the fence too about using those types of funds. And right. That's awesome that it can be privately managed like that and the freedom that they have. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for your time. And I know you're busy already, but I'm so glad that you were able to share on our show and get the word out about your programs and just the work that is happening in your states for homeschoolers, especially those with struggling learners who we support here at SPED Homeschool. So so keep up the good work, fight the good fight. I know you are. It's sometimes hard, especially during the holiday seasons, because like Kim said earlier, your family does sacrifice a lot for this. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate that. And we thank all of you, our audience, for joining us on this episode of Empowering Homeschool Conversations. This is just one of the many resources we have at SPED Homeschool that we make available to families home educating students with struggling learners. So check out our website at spedhomeschool.com for more resources, including our blog, which is now rated the #1 special needs homeschooling blog out there. And we have partners. We have over 200 vetted resources on our website that you can look at and use and just see if they might be able to help you with therapies or curriculum or a whole lot of other things. But next week, we're going to stay on this theme, and I'm going to be talking to one of the homeschool legal defense lawyers about the pros and cons of using public funding. And we're going to dive even beyond these programs to even using like your public school for testing and therapies and all these other things, and just some of the cases that they've had and dealt with that parents have had to navigate. And sometimes it's just advocacy and informing the public school what the law is, because a lot of times they don't know. And so we're going to be talking about that next week. So I hope you join me back again for that conversation. And also, we are at our year-end giving campaign here at SPED Homeschool, and we have a button on the home page of our website that's to join our mission. And if you do that, any size tax-deductible donation that you offer, you get our SPED Homeschool 2021 holiday do and do not list, which is really important, that do not part for you special needs parents. So we crafted that specifically for you as a thank you gift for your donation as we round out this year. So thanks for supporting our work, and especially for just being part of our community. And thank you, ladies, again. Greatly appreciate all that you had to share with us tonight, and just blessings on your work. And I know, Barbara, you guys are headed in a great direction. And Kim, you've started off right. So I can just see it growing in the future, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
We're watching Utah every bit as much as Utah's watching Florida. Yes. We're so excited that we're not alone anymore.
Yes. Awesome.
So thank you very much for having me tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are welcome. All right. We'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The content we feed our minds will eventually show up in our lives. If we feed our minds the lies and confusion of this world, our lives will begin to reflect worldliness. But if we feed our minds the truth of the gospel, our lives will start to reflect the heart and character of Jesus. I'm John Stange, and each week I host the Dwell on These Things podcast, where we take a deep look at the Word of God and learn what it means to apply it to our lives. We don't skip difficult passages, and we don't gloss over the truth. If you're looking for a show that will put your mind in a better place and help you understand God's Word with more clarity, you can listen to the Dwell on These Things podcast at lifeaudio.com or on your favorite podcasting app.